Hello everyone, welcome to EduTap and welcome to the Finance 360-degree sessions where we cover all the relevant and important finance current affairs and RBI notifications which are important from your exam point of view. Let it be the RBI Grade B, the NABARD Grade A or SEBI Grade A, okay? So today I have brought for you a very important RBI press release as well as a very important finance current affairs. As you can see that it was covered in Live Mint, it was covered in Hindu Business Line, it was covered in Business Standard and all the important newspapers that are important from your exam point of view, okay? So this is a very big news article that we have to see, and the RBI has inked the pact with the Bank of England on the clearing of the settlement. So what has happened that the Bank of England and the Reserve Bank of India, they have signed the memorandum of understanding on the CCIL. So there is a very big debate that we have to see that from October 2022 there was many things that happened. The ESMA, that is the European Union, we can say this is like SEBI in our country. Similarly, there is the ESMA in EU. So ESMA had banned 6 clearing corporations of our country. So there is a very big debate that we have to see, and we have to understand that what is the whole news article, because direct questions can be seen from this news article in the objective part of the examination, in the descriptive part of the examination. So this is a very important news article. So buffering, is it happening? The video is buffering. Tell me, give me a thumbs up if everything is fine. This is a very important news article, okay? So we have to focus on this. So good morning Krishna, good morning Ronak, good morning Saurish, good morning Fani, good morning Nilesh, good morning Harshita, good morning Ronak. Okay, so I will be starting the session. All okay? Nice. So do subscribe to the YouTube channel and join the Telegram channel for the PDF of this session. Now coming to the news article, what has happened that the Reserve Bank of India and the Bank of England have signed a MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, regarding the cooperation and exchange of the information related to the Clearing Corporation of India Limited. So they have signed a MOU. So Bank of England and the Reserve Bank of India have signed a MOU regarding the cooperation between them and the exchange of information from the Reserve Bank of India to Bank of England regarding the Clearing Corporation of India Limited. So what is the news article? To understand this MOU, first we have to go to the background. But before that also, are you aware that what is the Clearing Corporation of India? Are you aware that what are the central counterparties? How many of you know? So the students that do not have the understanding of the counterparty, the clearing counterparty or the central counterparty or the CCIL, do not worry, we will understand it completely today. So starting with novation is a very important idea that you must know about, okay? So to understand this whole news article, first let's have the clarity about the central counterparty and the CCIL. So novation discharges the original. So what is happening that in a market, in a financial market, what happens that this is a buyer and this is a seller. They both are meeting with each other. They both are trading in bonds. They both are trading in securities or forwards or options or swaps or any other kind of derivative. So you can understand that the buyer and seller, they both are engaged in the financial transaction. Let's say they are engaged in the forwards. That means they are signing a contract that on this date, on 1st January, I want to buy some particular gold from you and I will pay you this much for the 1 kg of gold. So this is the forward contract that they have signed for a particular date in the future, okay? So this kind of, now let's say the seller do not want to sell the gold. After the contract has happened, the seller is backing off. So there is a big trouble that is coming to the buyer, because the buyer has the, like, he wants the gold. He is ready to pay, but the seller has backed off. So there was many of the risks that were involved in the direct contact between the A and B, between the buyer and seller, and that's why there came the concept of central counterparty. So novation means, novation discharges the original rights and obligations of the buyer and seller and replaces their contract with 2 contracts. Now there is not the direct contract between A and B. The A and B are not directly getting into a contract. The A is getting in contract with the CCP, with the central counterparty, and the B is also getting in contract with the CCP, that is central counterparty, okay? So A is the buyer, B is the seller. So seller is getting into contract with the CCP that the CCP is the buyer for the seller and CCP is the seller for the buyer. Okay, CCP will take the gold from the seller and will take the money from the buyer, will provide the gold to the buyer and will provide the money to the seller. Okay. So what is happening that here A and B are not directly connected. Here A and B are connected through the central counterparty. So central counterparty, how it is very important, let us see more. So central counterparty is an independent entity that interposes itself between buyer and sellers. So it is coming in between the buyer and the seller in a financial transaction. Yes, it is a mediator, it is a third party intermediary. We can say it is anything that is coming in between the buyer and the seller, okay, in a financial transaction, especially in the case of the forwards and the swaps and the options, because they are going to happen in the future date, and there comes the risk that what if the other party do not provide the obligation. So this is the usual concern. So its primary function, central counterparty's primary function is to act as a buyer for the seller, buyer for the seller and seller for the buyer. So there are two contracts that are happening with the CCP. It is acting as a seller for the buyer and buyer for the seller, so that the seller and the buyer, like A and B, they do not have to meet directly. So the buyer to every seller and the seller to every buyer, becoming the counterparty for both sides of a trade. By doing so, what the central counterparty is doing, it is reducing the risk in the market and it is increasing the market efficiency. Let's say, sorry, let's say that the seller do not want to sell gold now. So the buyer will be in a troublesome situation because on, let's say today is 7th December, on 1st January, the seller has said that I do not have gold, I cannot sell gold. What will happen now? So seller will inform the CCP that I do not have any gold, but the buyer needs the gold, the buyer is ready to pay. So CCP has to provide the gold to the buyer, because otherwise the buyer will be in a very bad situation. So the CCP will provide the gold to the buyer from any means, from purchasing from its own means. Okay, so CCP will provide the gold to the buyer so that the buyer does not fail, the buyer does not face any kind of repercussions. Okay, so the seller, now what will happen, that the seller will have to pay. So seller has already, when the contracts happen, the seller and the buyer, they both have provided the margin requirements, where in case they are defaulting, that margin requirement will be kept by the CCP. So CCP already keeps the margin requirement. If any of them fail, the CCP will keep the money. So through that money as the margin requirement, the seller is not going to get the margin requirement back, and that using that margin requirement, the CCP will provide the gold to the buyer. So this is like collateral, or the CCP can keep any kind of collateral from both the buyer's end and the seller's end. And if the seller is not providing the gold, then CCP can use that collateral, can use the margin requirement to provide the gold to the buyer. So in this case, what is happening, that the risk has been reduced by a lot for the buyer and the seller. If the buyer is defaulting, buyer is saying I do not have money, I cannot purchase the gold, but the seller has to sell the gold because the seller wants the money. So here the CCP will have to provide the money and will take the gold, and the margin requirement that was paid by the A will be kept by the CCP. So I hope this idea is clear. Give me a thumbs up if everything is clear. You are understanding the point that the CCP is in the middle and the CCP has the obligation to complete the transaction. If any party is defaulting, the CCP will complete the transaction from their own end. And for the default, the CCP has already taken, in the backdate, CCP has already taken the margin requirement or collateral from both the parties. So any party defaults, the CCP will keep that collateral. By doing so, CCP effectively becomes the central point of contact for clearing, settling and guaranteeing. Very important point, guaranteeing the performance of trades. Any party defaults, do not worry. The other party will get the end of the transaction. Okay. The CCP becomes the central entity that assumes the counterparty risk. So CCP has the risk now. What if the other party does not provide the trade or does not respect the trade? Then the CCP will have to respect the contract. Okay, but what happens that it reduces the risk exposure. Now here the buyer and seller both are free minded that okay, their trade will be settled. The buyer is sure that it will get gold, the seller is sure that it will get the money because the CCP is involved. If they were directly involved, the seller and the buyer, what if the buyer says no, or what if so the seller had the risk? Here what if the seller says no, so the buyer had the risk? But now in the CCP case, there is no risk that is involved with the A or B because here the transaction must happen. Okay, so this is the idea that the CCP reduces the risk exposure for both the parties of the individual market participants. So I hope good. Yes, I can see many of the thumbs up. That means you people are understanding. Now coming to the CCIL. So this is also one of the central counterparty. CCIL was set up in April 2001 to provide the guaranteed clearing and settlement of functions for the transactions in the money market. So money market is the, like there are the capital market and the money market. So money market is the small term market where the financial transactions are happening for the small term, like the repo transactions that happen, they are for the 7 days or 1 day and such. Okay, so money market transactions, the government securities transaction, the foreign exchange and derivative markets. So these are the transactions that come under the Clearing Corporation of India. In this kind of transactions, the Clearing Corporation of India works as the central counterparty. So CCIL is the central counterparty in these markets or these trades. So the introduction of the guaranteed clearing and settlement led to significant improvement in the market efficiency. The A and B parties both are sure that they will get their end of the bargain, their end of the trade will be complete. Okay, transparency is there, liquidity is there, risk management is there because the CCP is known for its risk management. It has many of the tools. It has many of the tools to manage the risk. Okay, measurement practices in these market along with added benefits like reduced settlement and operational risk. So you can understand that the A and B, they are going to this central counterparty. They do not have to find the seller or buyer themselves. They can directly connect with the CCP. Okay, savings on settlement cost, etc. So I'm getting a question. One thing, ma'am, if the seller does not provide the gold ever to CCP, then how is it possible to do business? Yes, I like in the first slide I said now that the B and A, they both have to provide the marginal requirements or they both have to provide some collateral. In case their end of the deal is not being completed, then this collateral or the margin requirement will be kept by the CCP. As well as CCP also has to take some risk themselves. There are the margin requirements that are taken from all the buyers, all the sellers, that is kept by the CCP for the time being, okay, till the trade happens. So background, now coming to the news article back, I hope you have understood about the whole scenario. What is CCP, what is CCIL? CCIL is very important in case of the transactions that are happening in the money market, the government securities, the foreign exchange and derivative markets. The CCIL works as the central counterparty for all these markets so that the market efficiency, transparency, risk management is there. Okay, now coming to the background, what happened that European Securities and Market Authority, yes, CCP bears the whole risk, but CCP is also taking the collateral, CCP is also taking the margin requirements, and CCP is best at managing the risk. That's why it is there, right? So now European Securities and Markets Authority, ESMA, had de-recognized. ESMA is the, like we have SEBI, India has SEBI, Securities and Exchange Board of India. So we have SEBI. Similarly, the European Union have ESMA. That is, European Union have ESMA, that is European Securities and Markets Authority. It had de-recognized 6 Indian clearing houses, saying that provide us the right, provide the right to the ESMA to supervise the Indian entities. So the governor of our country directly said that we cannot provide such kind of supervision rights to ESMA because these are our entities. These are the 6 Indian entities or the 6 Indian clearing houses are under the jurisdiction of RBI or SEBI. So how can we provide the right to you to supervise? So the ESMA de-recognized the 6 Indian central counterparties by the EU regulator. The ESMA de-recognize the 6 Indian central counterparties, and these were the 6 Indian central counterparties that were under the jurisdiction or the supervision of the RBI, SEBI or IFSCA. So you can understand that the ESMA is not recognizing the supervision or the regulation of RBI, SEBI and IFSCA. So it was a big we can say the big fight that happened between ESMA and the authorities of our country. The ESMA wanted to have the supervision and audit rights of the Indian entities, and they were regulated by the regulators of our country. So RBI refused to permit the overseas body the rights of inspection and audit over the domestic clearing houses, and it was such a bad kind of decision that was taken by ESMA that you can see that the Clearing Corporation of India, the Indian Clearing Corporation Limited, NSE Clearing Limited, Multi-Commodity Exchange Clearing, supervised by SEBI, India International Clearing Corporation Limited, that is under IFSCA, and the NSE IFSC Clearing Corporation, that is under IFSCA. They all were banned by the European Union, by the ESMA, we can say. So ESMA row happened. RBI governor says European regulators need to trust India's credibility and strength. Okay, it's not like that we are same as when we were independent, when we just got independent. Now we have the good regulations, and that has to be trusted. There are many banks that were falling down in US and in Europe, while our banks were very much stable. We had good foundations even in the case of COVID-19, even in the case of the Russia-Ukraine war. So how the European Union or the ESMA can say so that we will supervise the entities of India? So India is much different today than what it was earlier, and the developed world needs to trust the credibility and strength of local regulators. This was the statement that was provided by Shaktikanta Das, as well as one more statement that was provided by Shaktikanta Das was regarding the jurisdiction of our country. So if we say that, okay, so let us supervise the European Union clearing houses, or let us supervise the clearing houses of Africa and US, so that cannot be correct, because there are the jurisdiction, the sovereignty that is involved of the countries. So this was the whole skirmish that happened between the European Union and the India. India did not provide the right to inspect or audit to the supervisor of EU, that is the European Securities and Markets Authority, and in return they banned our central counterparties. In this they also faced, so you can understand that this was the scenario, and in this case the European Union banks that were working in India, they faced a lot of trouble, because now they cannot take any help from any central counterparty. So you can understand, so this was a big decision that was taken by ESMA that actually harmed their own banks that were working in India, because the banks, they also trade in the markets, they also buy the bonds, securities, forwards, options and other derivatives. So what happened, that the banks of the European Union, they were not able to use the central counterparty to manage their risk in the case of the buying and selling of the bonds. So that's why the European Union banks were facing a lot of trouble because of the ban of the central counterparties that was done by the European Union itself. So now I hope you have understood the news article, like the background. Now coming back to the news article, so you can understand that how big this MOU is, that the Bank of England is saying that we are allowing the CCIL. Okay, so Reserve Bank of India and the Bank of England have signed a MOU concerning cooperation and exchange of information in relation to the Clearing Corporation of India Limited, that is actually banned by European Union. So the MOU establishes a framework for the Bank of England to place reliance. So the Bank of England is placing the reliance on RBI's regulatory and supervisory activities, that RBI is a good regulator, so we should trust the regulator of the country, while safeguarding UK financial stability, because the United Kingdom requires the central counterparty of our country for the banks that are present in our country. So there are the UK, the banks of UK, the banks of Britain are present in our country. No, all the six entities are present in India. It is Yes. So that's the worry now, that the 6 entities are present in India, but still the ESMA wants the right to supervise them. They are the Indian entities that are present in India. Still, the ESMA was saying that we want the supervision right over the 6 entities. So that's why RBI, SEBI, and IFSC all were against it. That how can you even demand such a thing? Okay. So the UK banks that are present in India, the UK banks, the Britain banks, the Standard Chartered and such banks that are present in India, they are trading in the forwards, they are trading in options, they are trading in the other derivatives in our country. Okay, so they require the central counterparty, especially the CCIL. They require the CCIL to do the transaction, because CCIL or the central counterparty, they reduce the risk by a lot, and that's why it is also required for the financial stability of the United Kingdom or for the banks of the United Kingdom. Okay, so the MOU establishes a framework for the Bank of England to place reliance on RBI's regulatory and supervisory activities while safeguarding the United Kingdom financial stability. So the United Kingdom is allowing the CCIL. It is saying that we are going to cooperate on CCIL. One thing that you need to remember is that the BOE or the Bank of England is saying that we are going to cooperate. It's not like that the Bank of England has allowed the CCIL. Right now, there is a framework that has been made regarding the cooperation and regarding the exchange of information. First, the Bank of England requires minimum information regarding the CCIL, and then the Bank of England is going to allow it. But still, it is a very big step in regards to trusting the Reserve Bank of India, SEBI and IFSCA. The MOU also demonstrates the importance of cross-border cooperation to facilitate international clearing activities and BOE's commitment to defer or to respect the other regulators' regime. So all the regulators have to trust and have to respect the regime of all the other regulators. It's not like that the US or the UK or any other regulator will come to India and will start supervising our entities. That cannot happen. That should not happen. And that was what the Reserve Bank of India's governor, the SEBI's governor also stated, that it is not possible and it cannot be possible. We are not saying that to provide us the supervision right of the ESMA entities or something. So why this kind of thing is being said about our country? So this is the idea that the BOE has taken the first step towards cooperating with the Reserve Bank of India, towards trusting the Reserve Bank of India, towards gaining the information from the Reserve Bank of India. Okay, so this is the first step. Right now, it is not, CCIL has not been allowed by the Bank of England. Only the cooperation is going to happen first. The information is going to be shared, and then the Bank of England is going to allow the CCIL. Okay, here you can see that our Deputy Governor and the Deputy Governor of the Bank of England, they both met in London and they both signed the MOU. Okay, so they both have signed the MOU. The MOU confirms the interest of both the authorities in enhancing the cooperation in line with their respective laws and regulations. It will also enable the Bank of England to access the application of CCIL, to get the information regarding CCIL, to allow the CCIL as a counterparty for the banks of the United Kingdom that are working in India. Okay, so it's only right now the cooperation has started, the information sharing has started. The Bank of England needs some time to access the CCIL, to allow the CCIL to work as the central counterparty for the UK based banks that are present in India. Okay, so this is the idea, be very clear about it. So UK based, now what are going to be the benefits? So for us, we are getting the recognition. It is being recognized by the world that whatever the ESMA is doing is wrong, and they require our entities to work as the central counterparty if they are present in India especially. So this is being recognized, and this is a win from our side. Okay, that as soon as Bank or England got out of the European Union, they started cooperating with our country. But what are going to be the benefits for the UK? So the UK based banks that are present in India, like the Standard Chartered Bank, the Barclays and the HSBC, with a significant, they have a significant presence in Indian bond and derivative markets. They handle transactions worth billions of dollars, and if they are not able to use the CCIL, if they are not able to use the central counterparty, the trade will be curtailed. Okay, the trade will reduce because the central counterparty reduces the risk of all the parties and make the market very, very efficient. The move is a relief. The cooperation that has started, the exchange of the information that has started, as well as the promise of the Bank of England that we are going to access the CCIL and we are going to see how well it is working, and then we will allow the CCIL to be the central counterparty for the UK banks. So this is a very, very good sign for the UK based banks, which are themselves large players in the Indian bond and derivatives market and are also custodians of foreign investment flows into India. The accord, the MOU that has been signed would pave the way, because the cooperation has started, the exchange of information has started. So this would pave the way of them to continue trading in the nation using the CCIL platform. That is a very big benefit for the UK based banks. Okay, any problem till now? Any problem till now? So I will take your queries if you have. You have 2-3 minutes to share your queries and then we will move forward. So this is the first question. I hope you will be easily able to answer this question. Very easy now. All of these countries are a part of the Europe and such. So you have to tell that which country has moved forward with the MOU. This is the second question. This is the second question. Is there any try to answer this question also. So before moving forward, these are the people that have given the right answer of the previous session question. It is Shibanand, Kingshuk, Saurish, Ankit, Sonali, Gagan, Dinesh, Bolly, Nilesh, Vandana, Meenal, Purushottam, Amar, Jayant, Harshita, Shushmita, Rushi, Durga, Mukesh, Ashmita, VSSS, and Hemant, Anant, Surjeet, Bhabani, Riya, Fani, Abhay, Harshdeep, Muskan, Abhinay, Paul, Shubham Chakravarti, Smart Kid, Kajol and Kamal. So all these people have given the right answer of the previous session question, and it is so good to see the repeated names, the regular names that I see. As well as there is a big announcement from EduTap that we have brought for you the comprehensive guidebook for RBI, NABARD and SEBI, so that through a single guidebook you can get all the common queries answered. If you want to know about the sources, if you want to know about the syllabus, if you want to get the previous year questions, everything is provided in this single guidebook. So you can easily download this guidebook, which is absolutely free of cost for all of you. So you can download this guidebook. The link is provided in the description box below. Do give the right answer of the homework question and do tell me that if you like the session. Okay, so homework questions, do give the right answer. Thank you, ma'am, for the amazing session. You are most welcome, Harshita. You are most welcome, Ankit. Most welcome, Krishna. Most welcome, Nilesh and Saurish. So I hope you all liked the session. Do tell me in the comment section below also, and do give the right answer of the homework question. I want to continue seeing the regular students giving the right answer. Okay, thank you.